Okay, I've got a question. What does pre-marriage boot camp, a very snazzy men's jacket, and fireside slippers have in common?
Well, somehow, believe it or not, they are all key plot points in 2024's To Have and To Holiday. We've got a lot to talk about, Jennifer.
We do, Josh, and we'll unwrap it all in this episode of Do You Watch What I Watch?
Sit down and watch, then have a talk with Jennifer and Josh.
Well, as we are recording, today is December 1st. December is here, so get your Advent calendars out because the season is officially upon us. And we've got a fun one to recap and review on this episode. Let's get straight away to the IMDb summary, and Jennifer's going to lead you on the deep dive. When Celeste gets engaged to Jason after just a few months of dating, her father and the couple's would-be officiant, Pastor Mark, insists on putting them through a pre-wedding boot camp filled with Christmas-themed challenges. As the couple grows stronger through the festive activities, Pastor Mark learns to trust his daughter's choices. Let's go.
Okay, so we open to a Christmas fashion plate montage. And if you are a millennial who had Barbie fashion plates back in the day, you could pick like bottoms, middle, tops, and you could change them out. And then you take paper and rub your little crayons or color pencils over it, and it would transfer like a fashion design. And I think that was most millennials' intro to fashion design. So our female lead, Celeste, she's fantasizing of being recognized by her Devil Wears Prada-esque fashion boss in the big New York City, Big Apple, big city. But alas, it was just a daydream. She's heading home for Christmas because the job with Devil Wears Prada lady was just temporary. They didn't say internship, so unclear what these circumstances were, but she doesn't have a place to live because she's been staying with her new-ish boyfriend, Jason, who she's met in the big city for 3 months they've been dating, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He has a very swanky, very well-to-do apartment, and the way they set it up, you're kinda led to believe based on previous Hallmark movies that we're supposed to hate this guy, right? He's, like, clean cut, he can't join her going home to her small town for the holidays, his apartment's beautiful, you know he's got money, but alas, I did not hate him because here we go. He right away, product placement, gives her the biggest bag of Fireside slippers possible, and then he's like, "Hey, we got 60 minutes before your flight. Let's cram in 60 minutes of Christmas." And I thought this was awesome. I mean, they put on reindeer onesies, they scarf down part of a Christmas tree pizza, they read part of a book, I think. Like, it's all very fast-paced, but very cute. And I was like, "Okay, I guess we are supposed to like this guy." I was thrown for a loop. So she's unsure what the future holds, but maybe they can do long distance. We know Hallmark is very anti long distance, so uh-oh. And then before she leaves for her flight, he's like, "You know what? Can I join you?" And he invites himself, and she's like, "Yeah, of course, you're invited all the time." So off they go to a small town wherever this is. What did you think about this intro, Josh?
Well, I really liked it. I think that they were very smart to set this couple up as a couple that you want to cheer for throughout this movie because they're about to introduce some conflict here and they need you on board with this couple. And boy, they really sold this guy from go. He apparently is well to do, well off, and a heart of gold, and is clearly a smitten kitten for our dear female lead here.
That's right. So we get to her hometown and we meet Celeste's dad, who's the pastor, and, we see his assistant pastor, I guess, who happens to be Celeste's ex. It seems like they don't know that Jason's coming home for Christmas or even maybe that he exists. They certainly don't know that she's been staying with him, so the pastor still likes her ex-boyfriend, is like, "Hey, why don't you come over when Celeste gets home and meet up? Maybe, maybe some love would rekindle," he's kind of thinking. And they're getting busy getting ready for the big town Christmas festival. Um, so we also see Celeste's mom, who happens to be the mayor of the town. So between pastor and mayor, they've got this town wrapped around their pretty little fingers, don't they? I mean, what more do you need in these towns? Celeste and Jason arrive to the parents being shocked. And they're like, "Oh, you brought a boy home. Weird." And then dad starts flashing back to his daughter as a little girl. And it's straight up a scene out of Father of the Bride. Can I just say that? Which is my favorite movie of all time, so I would know. Jason they say, "Okay, you can stay, but you can stay in the basement," which we've already seen once with Christmas in the Sings. There's actually a lot of similar tropes that will come up, or themes rather, with Christmas in the Sings, Christmas with the Sings. But, we learned that the pastor's church has been around since the 1800s, and it has to be updated, the building does, per an inspector. But Celeste is like, "I've always wanted to get married there. Oh, no." And right at dinner, unprompted really, Jason drops to a knee and proposes at the table. And Mom tosses her ring to him to use because, he didn't have a ring because he didn't plan on it. And they're engaged now because she wants to get married in this church. And, oh, she wants to get married there Christmas Eve. And it's presumably like 3 weeks before Christmas.
3 weeks. Yeah.
It's a lot, let's just say. Like, there's a lot to not like about Pastor Mark that we will get into, but I don't know. I kind of side with him here. So what? Your daughter's bringing this guy home you've never even heard of, really. Mom, I guess, had heard there was a guy named Jason kind of that she'd been hanging out with, but nothing serious. And he proposes without a ring, without a plan, without talking to them, without anything. Hadn't even thought about it himself, but just to make her happy, which can be sweet and romantic, but also a little weird. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why are we rushing into marriage because of a venue?
Yeah. Well, I guess presumably he picked up on that venue meaning the world to her, and he just wanted to do the sweet thing and capitalize on the moment, and he was all caught up in his feels and all of that. But yeah, this was very, very whiplashy. I think I audibly gasped
Yeah,
when he dropped
for
to it.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I went, "Oh, no." Because on the previews, I guess I thought they were already engaged when they came home for the holidays, is kind of what I thought, kind of like Christmas with the Saints. So, yeah, here we are. So, Mom, she's caught up in the moment. She's on board. Dad is skeptical. So, he's like, "It's not like Celeste to jump into anything so fast." And it's very similar to a plot line on Friends when Ross married this girl, Emily, because her church was being torn down and ended up being kind of like a rebel-esque wedding ceremony. So it reminded me of that. Anyways, that marriage ended poorly, so we'll see what happens here. Regardless. Ding dong. Celeste's ex, the assistant pastor, Dean, shows up at the house. Whoops. And they're like, gotta go. Jason's like, "Oh, you want to tell my parents, but they're traveling." Wasn't he going to spend the holidays with them? And so
Presumably.
she was leaving for the airport?
Mhm.
That didn't make sense to me. I feel like maybe I misheard. But anyways, I have more questions than answers. So Dad decides, "You know what? Fine. If you want me to marry you, I will put you through my marriage boot camp like I do all of my couples. And that is when I will officiate." So here's our plot. The newly engaged couple ventures out to the local watering hole and we meet townies. We see some karaoke. We meet her best friend and best friend's husband. Now I'm into it because I love some townies. And this town's got a lot of them with a lot of pizzazz and personality. We then get all these different boot camp challenges, I guess. So the first thing, I won't go into details about all of it, but we get like rigorous questions of things they kind of haven't talked about yet that they probably should be talking about. Then they have to work together on building their dream gingerbread house. And Dad is fast tracking the program to freak him out, but it kind of backfires because although they do disagree on some things, they work well together and they end up connecting more than ever. Uh-oh. They have to the next day is a challenge with the snowman slalom. Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Where Celeste is blindfolded and they're on a golf cart and Jason is in the passenger seat and he has to tell her where to go to drive to not hit the big fake snowmen that are around. Probably from the snowman tableau of Haul Out the Holly, if I had to guess, from the prop department.
Yes, exactly.
So they make their way through the race. All that's good. And Pastor Mark's kind of like, uh-oh. So, um, the mail in town is messed up because what do you know? Jason beat the mailman at darts, and the mailman is now too depressed to function, which I loved. I thought that was so funny. So now all the townies are kind of turning on him, like, "Oh, you're the reason I don't have my mail." Like when they see him on the street, they're like heckling him a little bit. But Jason, I'll give him credit. He keeps his head high. He's like, "I'm sorry. I didn't realize this was gonna happen. It's just darts, but it's not just darts in this town." The cranky PE teacher, she overhears that she thinks the pastor forgot to order lights for the big tree lighting ceremony because for whatever reason he's in charge of the Christmas festival, not at his church.
No.
Whatever. Anyways, so she starts spreading gossip like wildfire through town to kind of disparage the pastor. Jason overhears he's going to call his light guy because he's got a guy for everybody. He's that guy who has a guy for everything. And so pastor is stressed out. He shows up. Oh, look, there's lights on the tree. Christmas is saved. Jason saved the day. And pastor is super rude to him in the town square.
Unbelievably rude. Yeah. But you know what I really like, Jennifer? I like that they're fleshing out these characters in this movie, right? We're getting that each character is not just a cardboard cutout, right? A lot of times townies are throwaways and just very kind of one note. Every single townie has something more to them, like a quirk or something going on that makes them more interesting. And I'm here for every single one of them. Not too many townies, right number of townies that really adds to the plot, I thought.
Agreed. So Pastor Dad realizes, okay, I was too hard on Jason. So they reconcile. They go to the bar and get virgin eggnogs. And we learn there that Jason's guys, all of his guys he has are really just like friends who are in different industries and have different connections. And the jacket that he's is very snazzy. He's been obsessed with wearing all the time that they've all kind of commented, oh, fancy jacket. It was actually belonged to his friend who passed away. Oh, okay. So everything's going swimmingly with this reconciliation until Jason mentions, "Hey, next year, Pastor, you should come and we'll go to the Rockettes in New York City for Christmas because we'll be living there, or maybe we'll be in a different apartment. We'll be in New York City, aka Celeste won't be living at home, and it's like the ice cubes form back on Pastor Mark and walls go up. Yeah, he this is news to him, and he does not like this idea. Now you have to wonder how old Celeste was and how this thought had never occurred to him that maybe she would move to the big city for more than a couple months for this temporary gig. I don't know.
Well, especially because he knows his daughter wants to do fashion. There's not a whole lot of fashion happening in this small town. The only really opportunity that exists in this small town is for her to potentially take over the dress shop that exists there in town?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because throughout this, I'm not even talking about all the wedding planning stuff. They're trying to get flowers, they're trying to get the dress, they're running around like crazy, and everything's just kind of coming together. So that's a whole nother like sea thread running through here. So Pastor Mark, super upset again. And the next challenge, the young couple volunteers at a children's event, which is all well and good until Celeste spills hot cocoa on a woman. And oh, it's Jason's mom, and his dad comes in too. So they were in another country building schools for impoverished children. They got Jason's email that this nuptial and fast track wedding's happening. Got on the first plane, got out of there. Excuse me.
Charitable stuff.
What about the children?
Throw it to the side.
Y'all can handle it yourself. Are you kidding me? It was just so they couldn't have said, "Oh, we were, leaving anyways," or "We got the email when we got back to serve it." Like, no, they made a point to say, "Mm-mm, we got the first flight."
Bolted. Bolted.
That was so funny and unnecessary to say.
Yeah. They could have just as easily written that to say, yeah, we're just fresh back from this charitable trip, something like.
Yeah, because the whole point is it's like these are perfect parents. This is like Pastor Mark's trying to find a crack in this family, right? And it's just he's coming up empty because they're legitimately good people and they got a lot going for him. So he's like, maybe they'll talk some sense into Celeste and Jason. No, they had a quick engagement. They're all on board too. So Pastor Mark is on an island at this point. There's some other challenges. They do bar trivia or like trivia at the bar rather, the newlywed games. Celeste and Jason are crushing it. And then their final thing, they have to host a dinner for disgruntled family members where both of their parents show up to dinner and just say super passive aggressive rude things to them the whole time, which was actually pretty funny. Later the mom said, "No, I'm vegan. Do you have anything vegan?" And they're like, "We didn't know you were vegan." And then 5 minutes later, she's like, "No, I'm not vegan anymore." Like, just crazy stuff that is so out there, but it's pretty funny. They're all into it. Even Jason's parents are playing along just to get them to get frazzled and see how they work together. And it's all fun and games, fun and reindeer games, dare I say. Until Celeste gets a call, ring, ring. Turns out she'd sent her I guess, fashion plate portfolio to Devil Wears Prada chick, and she's gonna hire her. Didn't even interview her, just unlisted her portfolio so much. Yes, please take a job and move to New York. And she gets off the phone, comes out, and they're all staring at her, and Dad is ticked. And Dad's ticked at Celeste for moving to New York. Celeste is ticked at Jason for saying, like, tipping him off that this might be happening. Everybody's kind of, and Dad and Mom are mad at each other. It's like a whole thing. Celeste storms out. She goes to sit at the church where, who do you know? Assistant pastor, ex-boyfriend's there to console her. And he didn't do anything inappropriate. He told him. He was honestly just being a good friend. Like, he seems like a great guy, Jason does. I'm glad you're happy. And then they hug right when Jason walks in to talk to her.
Classic
And
oopsie doodle.
oopsie doodle. Jason storms out because he's jealous Jason. He runs off into the snowy night. And then hark, what does he hear? It's Celeste's best friend Tracy in labor. And she's stranded on the side of the road. Her car keys are in a sewage grate, and her husband is not answering his phone. And the way I would be upset. But anyways, he pulls the antler off a nearby reindeer decor, scoops out the keys, drives her to the hospital, takes action, and everybody's all like, "Yay, Jason again! We love you, even though you messed up the mail." Celeste and Dad reconcile. Assistant pastor calls. Ring, ring. They shouldn't answer the phone anymore because nothing good is coming through these phone calls. Ring, ring. Hey, pastor, part of your ceiling has caved in because oopsie doodle, for real. Earlier in the movie, there was what I thought was a throwaway line that the assistant pastor was telling Pastor Mark, hey, there's a leak you need to get checked out. He's like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. Well, he's been so distracted with trying to dismantle this relationship that he's been giving up his pastor duties. Like, he didn't get a permit for the lights. He didn't do all these other things they mentioned. And he didn't get the leak checked out. And now the wedding venue partially caved in. Now, they are all surprisingly calm about this to me.
Yeah.
Like, they're all like, oh, I guess we'll just have to postpone it till next year because the church is getting it renovated. It'll look better than ever. We'll just push the whole wedding, even though we're a few days out. We'll just push it a whole year. It's fine. Did you think that was an appropriate response?
No, because the whole movie hinges on throwing together this wedding in 3 weeks. They were all so invested in having this wedding at the church, and then all of a sudden that's not an option, and you're absolutely right. It was just like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess we'll just push it out a year." You could have said that 60 minutes ago. So have you been wasting my time with this movie the whole time? What's the deal?
Hmm. And well, I'll get to it. I won't spoil. Okay. So everybody's okay with it. Christmas Eve comes and goes. No wedding happens. Everybody's just jolly, I guess, on doing other stuff that we don't see. Christmas morning, the moms are up to something, and they get Celeste and Jason to the Shore Club, which is, I guess, a venue in town that this family's been to a lot. Everything's set up for a wedding. It's not the church wedding, but hey, Celeste, won't this be great? And she's like, yeah, we can still get married. Awesome. High five. Again, surprisingly okay with it when she was, dare I say, hell-bent about a church. I don't know. She was dead set on,
Dead set. Yes.
insistent upon getting married in this church that was her father's. And now she's totally cool with the Shore Club. Why not? They get married. Everybody dances, and it's fine. Now, they had about 20 people at this wedding, which, fine, if you want a small wedding. Couldn't we have taken half of the church and cordoned off the leaky part and still done the ceremony? Like, it wasn't like the whole ceiling caved in. It was 5 pews. I feel like we could put some caution tape around that.
Folks, it's called pipe and drape, right? You just put up some pipes, put up some drapes. It's not that. A good event manager would have been able to pop that problem in no big deal.
Well, they didn't have one. They didn't have a wedding planner or anything.
True.
They were doing this all themselves. But, yeah, so that was kind of a weird ending, but there you go.
It's time for gold or coal.
Okay, it's time for our gold or coal segment. We're each going to bring 3 gifts to the pod. And if there's more gold, it's a wondrous wedding. If there's more coal, it's a nightmare nuptial. And if it's a tie, it's just a Merry Christmas. Josh, I'm going to you first. This is not our first Christmas wedding movie.
No,
So,
it's not. No, it's
what'd you
not.
think?
I'm going to give some gold to start. I really liked the relationship between the dad and the daughter here. Now, the dad is Eric Close, and he played Teddy in Nashville, if you ever watched that
Right.
ABC drama back in the day. So it was nice to see him back on television. But I thought he did a really good job of sort of playing this really conflicted dad who wants to let their daughter make choices, but at the same time is feeling like, is this the right choice? And so I thought he played that really well. And I liked a lot of these flashbacks that we got from her youth and from her growing up as a little girl. And he's sort of grieving all of that and all in his feels too. So gold for me.
Yeah, and like I said, I relate. I mean, I didn't relate to him. I've never been a dad watching my daughter get married, but I understood where he was coming from. Now, was it a little much? Sure, because
Yeah.
it's a movie, but it seemed more grounded and I understood it more than like say the dad on Christmas with the Sings. Now that was funnier to me, that whole bit, but he was like he didn't have any reason to hate that guy. This is like, okay, I get it. This is all a whirlwind and you would be concerned for your daughter. So I got it. We'll give some gold for the funny moments. There was a lot of this that made me laugh out loud, and I will say, leading up to this movie, I was not excited about it. We drafted it, and I was poo-pooing it to and fro, but I thought this movie had a lot of funny moments, so gold for that.
Awesome. I'm gonna give some I'm gonna give some goals here. Goals for you for the new year. Gold, I will be
Well, that'll be the holiday touchdown review. We can give goals
exactly.
instead of gold.
Goal. I will give some gold. I really liked in the boot camp that there was this punctuated thing that he was doing with the couple throughout where he had them stand face to face and say something you've never told the other person. And the whole point of that was to really foster radical honesty in the relationship, which I thought was just a really refreshing thing for them to highlight in a successful marriage, right? It could have been all just, oh, here's how you communicate and here's how you deal with tough stuff. But I felt like fundamentally to have this challenge built around radical communication and radical honesty with one another was a really nice touch. And I think we saw that used as a device to see the depth of their relationship grow during this boot camp, which was ultimately the dad's purpose in doing all of this. And we got that he was being a little aggressive and kind of running
Mhm.
things a little differently when it was his own daughter and being a little tough on them in the whole nine yards, but ultimately it did what he intended it to. And I like that.
Yes, and I will give gold similarly. I mean, basically what you said, but I like that they were working on their relationship together, and I liked this couple. I believed that they were still kind of in that new relationship phase and puppy dog eyes, but I don't know. I feel like they have enough foundation. Those kids can make it work. It was interesting to me, and this isn't gold or coal, this is just a comment. What does he do for marriage boot camp when it's not Christmas?
It's
Like
a great question.
when there's not snowmen to dodge, you can dodge cones, but what about the gingerbread house thing? Like, what does a normal course look like? Or does he make them all wait and take the courses at Christmas and then you have to wait till the following year? It's just like,
And with that, Jennifer just shot a gigantic cannon through the entire premise of this movie. Blow it up. I love it.
yeah, it was just, it's not a negative. It's just like a, huh.
An observation, if you will.
Yeah.
My next one is going to be a little bit of coal. I think this movie could have really used an epilogue. Like, I would have loved to have seen 1 year later because they set up this whole thing with her sort of, could she take over the dress shop in town? Which to me, watching this seemed like a natural thing. And I think
Yeah.
that almost would have been a better ending than her taking the gig in New York City. Like, I get it.
Mhm.
But she had so much of this reawakening about loving her small town and loving the church and being with her family and all these great things and da, da, da. It seemed to me like that was going to be the choice she made. And maybe she did. We just never found out. We got to the wedding and things ended. So that's why I say sometimes an epilogue can help sort of tie the bow on one of these stories. And I think this movie could have had that and been well served by it.
So that's a coal for missing an epilogue.
Yes.
Okay. I will give some coal and yeah, it's the ending. The fact that we're just totally okay that we have to push the wedding for a year. That just it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what? I mean, I know she wasn't the bridezilla type that was gonna run around like crazy, but it just kinda I don't know. That was the whole point. The whole I guess the point is in the end, she doesn't care where she gets married, she just wants to be married to him, I guess, but it was just a little odd and out of character to me.
Well,
But
I agree. And the bottom line with this one, we had 4 gold, 2 pieces of coal, so we're gonna call it a wondrous wedding. I thought it was fun. I thought this one had some good family dynamics, great townies, plenty of funny moments. This would be a good sort of family movie night, like pop some popcorn, maybe the in-laws are in town, that kind of thing, and y'all can watch it together. This one, I think, would sort of spark some good conversation and give families, I think, the feels.
I liked it a lot. It is funny to me, and again, this isn't negative or positive, it's just a comment, that for him to be a pastor listen, I don't n we are Christians, we met at church. I don't need these movies to be super Christian. So, like, that we can be secular Christmas for the warm fuzzies, that's fine. But for him to be a pastor in a church, there ain't nary no Christ in this movie. It's just kind of funny. Like, there was, in Christmas with the Sings, they're in the church and they're reading the Christmas story from the Bible, and it was kind of funny that, like, even him planning the Christmas festival, there was no live nativity or anything like
Anything remotely related to
Yep.
the birth of Jesus, yes.
No, that just wasn't really important. It's just kinda funny. Like, again, it's not bad or good. It just was when you have Pastor Mark at the helm. Pastor wasn't pastor nothing. He was an event planner, which was a choice, but there you go. And that, friends, is another episode of Do You Watch What I Watch?
Special thanks, as always, to our great friend Nick Schwartz for our amazing theme song, and to each and every one of you for taking the time to listen on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on our YouTube channel.
Speaking of, we would love if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring the bell so you get notified when things get posted. Listen, we're cranking out a lot of content this time of year, sometimes more than we can keep up with, really. But we're doing it for you guys. So we would love if you watch it. Leave a comment, thumbs up, all the things. Same thing with the podcasts channels. You can subscribe, tell a friend. Anything you need to know is at doyouwatchwhatiwatch.com. Next time, we will be going into our time machine back to the 90s for, you guessed it, a 90s Christmas from Hallmark. And here's the plot summary. While celebrating her promotion alone on Christmas Eve, a workaholic lawyer is transported back to 1999, the millennium as it were, via a mysterious rideshare experience. Well, we will have much to discuss, but until then.
May your days be merry and bright. See you soon.